I think oftentimes I've gotten into this place in this journey in the last couple of years of feeling like I haven't done enough, or I haven't moved the needle as far as I wanted to move it, or imposter syndrome, etc. And then
Yeah.
someone in my life will come around and say, have you forgotten everything that you just did? All the things you taught yourself, all the things that you've learned about social media and all the connections that, and sometimes it's like you can't see the forest for the trees because
Yeah.
you're so focused on this big picture that you're like, but wait, I actually did a whole lot of stuff on my own that I didn't know anything about, but I just got excited for the idea of trying something new and really, to your point, dusting off some of my superpowers and really
Yes.
bringing them to the light.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond Empty Nest. I'm your host, Jody Silverman, speaker, mentor, and Chief Dare Officer at Moms Who Dare. Every Thursday, I'll share stories of midlife transformation, happiness tips, and dare you to see the opportunities waiting for you so that you can make this next chapter even better than the last. If you're ready to dare, I'm ready to dare with you. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Beyond Empty Nest, the podcast that takes you on a journey to rediscover yourself, reignite your passions, and redefine your life in midlife. It's not about what you've lost. It's about everything you're ready to gain. Here today, we're diving into the art of reinvention, helping you find new purpose, regain your confidence, and unapologetically become self-centered in the best way possible. It's time to embrace this chapter with curiosity, courage, and a sense of adventure. So if you're ready to let go of old definitions and step boldly into the life you were meant to lead, you're in the right place. Let's dare to dream, explore, and thrive together. Welcome to Beyond Empty Nest. And today we have somebody so awesome in the nest with me. I'm calling it In the Nest. That was my old show. And her name is Jen Polt. Jen is the founder, chief inspirational officer, image and confidence coach at Glossed World. If you could design, this is what Jen says. This is how she describes herself, and I love this. If you could design a best friend who is equal parts motivational speaker, confidence coach, and comedian, you would have Jen Polt. In the spring of 2020, Jen started creating confidence content online for women over 40, encouraging them to turn the dial up instead of fading away. Her platforms have grown to over 150,000 members globally who follow her for a message of radical self-love, beauty tutorials, style tips, and for her humor and BFF-like delivery. In 2023, and we're going to talk more about this, Jen left her 25-year career to start her own business as a confidence coach and motivational speaker at age 52. And launched her website, glossworld.com. It's in the links below. Check it out after the episode. But right now, Jen Polt, welcome to Beyond Empty Nest.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Oh my God. So excited about our conversation because I always say this, I get the honor of meeting my guests before we ever hit record. We met in person, which is really like, that's so unheard of these days. They're like meeting people in person.
IRL.
Right? Shout out to Sheldon Bartlett Rumor, right? From This Is It TV network. Shout out to Sheldon. But we met at one of Sheldon's events, and it was, I just knew instantly that I number one needed you to be in my world and wanted to share your story and you and all that you are with my audience, because this is an audience of midlife women.
Yeah.
Daring to reconnect to who they get to be outside of their roles, outside of mom, outside. And it's all about the transitions. I mean, we have empty nest, we have retirement, we have divorce, we have widowhood, we have aging parents. We have so much happening that it's so easy to not even know how to begin to take action. So I love that you did. We called it a kind of like you had like a midlife reckoning reinvention.
Yeah.
So I don't know, where would you like to start? Would you like to start and dive right into your story?
Sure.
Let's do it. And we'll get
so my background, was as a sales and training executive in corporate America. And I've been in all different industries from telecom to new home sales. And most recently, I was a sales and training executive in the beauty industry. So I worked for two different big brands. And during COVID, I worked for Chanel, and I was responsible for all the retailers in Virginia that carried Chanel fragrance or beauty in one way, shape, or form. And I would train the teams and work with clients and recruit, talent and all of those things. And during COVID, when everything shut down, we all thought we were going to go back to work in a few weeks. And everything was going to be back to normal in June. And when we realized that that wasn't going to be the case anytime soon, I started to get concerned about how are we going to sell cosmetics and fragrances and skincare to people who are coming in with half their face covered that we can't touch. That's if they come in at all. And so I started to think, well, maybe we need to become masters of social media. And I thought I needed to walk the walk if I wanted to bring this information to my teams and encourage them to do the same. So I started to create content, and the content took off, to my surprise. And I actually really started to enjoy it. I was getting positive responses. It was exciting. It tapped into a creative spot in me that I hadn't been tapping into for quite some time in my corporate life. My job had become very tactical and less inspirational, motivational coaching, which is my wheelhouse. It's what I went to school for. I'm an educator. I was a high school teacher, all of the things. And so 2 years later, I was sitting at 100,000 followers. And this was concurrently, I was doing this basically as a second full-time job alongside a very demanding corporate life.
Yeah.
And I started to work with brands here and there on the side, and I was making some side hustle money, and it was substantial side hustle money to the point where I started to really think, could I pivot and do something completely that I never thought I would ever do? I don't think any Gen Xer thinks, oh, I think I'm going to be an influencer,
Yeah.
quote unquote. But I felt like what it was doing, it was giving me a platform that tapped into all of my superpowers. And it was actualizing in such a beautiful way to feel like the things that I felt like I was best at, I was getting feedback positively about
And you were, right.
those things. And so I put it out in the universe, and I've done this many times in my life. And I said, okay, by this time next year, I'm going to leave my corporate job and try to do this full time. And I did. I put that kind of dedication or that deadline out to myself. It was about 9 months out, and I did. I walked away from, a nice high paying 9 to 5 corporate, benefits, pension, 401k thing to become a first time entrepreneur. And it's been a roller coaster, both personally and professionally. But at the same time, I feel great about the decision. So it's been a whirlwind couple years, almost 2 years now. And
Yeah.
here I am talking to you about it.
I know. I love that. Okay. So you said some, and I know there's a little bit more that we're going to get into about the story, but because it was but you said things that I can't let go. So,
Yeah.
and it goes right into the platform of what I talk to, the platform and the foundation of everything that I talk about, whether it's when I take the stage as a motivational speaker or in the podcast or to my Moms Who Double Dare membership community. And that platform is daring.
Right.
And of daring on. So
Yeah.
daring is my fun take on stepping out of your comfort zone, trying something new.
For sure.
Daring on is your mantra to support you in stepping out and that you can do hard things. Reminder that I can dare on. I can dare on through this adversity. I can dare on through this change. And what you said is the exact definition of why daring works.
Yeah.
You decided that you needed to learn social media if you're going to present it to the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just did it. And what you uncovered, you didn't discover, you uncovered the creativity that you had maybe pushed down a little bit, even if you was using creativity. But that's what daring to just take action allows you to do. Daring allows you to uncover hidden talents and traits about ourselves that we forgot existed, like your creativity.
Yeah.
And I needed, yeah.
It's certainly, I always joke around, and I'll do my best not to swear on your podcast, but
Honestly,
I used to,
we could,
I used to, I
it's
was
a
like,
new season, a new year.
right. I'm like, okay, so I'm coaching all of these beauty advisors about, Instagram. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is a hashtag? Like,
Yeah,
like
right.
we come up with this stuff. I was on Facebook. That was it. I had tried to start an Instagram account years ago. There was a handful of pictures of me and maybe a couple of pictures of a couple makeup looks I had done. And that was it. I didn't know anything about trying to create content, edit, all the things that I've taught myself on the side. I've had to take stock of, because I think oftentimes I've gotten into this place in this journey in the last couple of years of feeling like I haven't done enough, or I haven't moved the needle as far as I wanted to move it, or, imposter syndrome, etc. And then
Yeah.
someone in my life will come around and say, have you forgotten everything that you just did? All the things you taught yourself, all the things that you've learned about social media and all the connections that, and sometimes it's like you can't see the forest for the trees because
Yeah.
you're so focused on this big picture that you're like, but wait, I actually did a whole lot of stuff on my own that I didn't know anything about, but I just got excited for the idea of trying something new and really, to your point, dusting off some of my superpowers and really
Yes.
bringing them to the light.
And you can't rediscover and bring your hidden, forgotten, lost superpowers to surface unless you're willing to dare on and step out of your comfort zone and try something new. And the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out the way you thought, and you learn something from that, right? We always talk about failure is not bad. It teaches us. Failure is an opportunity to learn how to do something different, or to learn that, oh, I don't really like this thing. I don't like this at all. So I'm going to go on to the next thing. And
Yeah.
that's my mantra for 2025. Obviously, dare on is my life mantra, but I took that and I made it be daring, not perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
think that's it's the quintessential kind of sales mantra. There's
yeah,
going to be a lot of no's before you get to a yes. And so when you get comfortable with moving and slogging through the no's or the mistakes or the failures or the lessons and the learnings, you get that much closer to the yeses, to those things that are like, oh, there you go. You did that one right. I mean, it's been wild. I mean, I've been sitting here for the last couple of years kind of at the same follower count. And that's never been a big thing for me. I've never equated my worth based on the numbers. I'm not trying to collect followers. I don't even like that term. But recently I posted something that was not a typical piece of content for me. And it was leaning more into my coaching things and philosophies around life and midlife and talking about making new friends in midlife. And that has since gone viral. And
yes,
it brought 10,000 new people to my community. And it's those things sometimes that you get kind of in your head about what you should be doing, creating. And sometimes you just have to keep throwing
yeah,
darts at the wall and see what sticks.
yeah. No, I love that. That's part of reinvention, right? Is throwing the darts at the wall. And you have another part of your story. Are we that I would love for you to share, because you dared to leave a good paying job, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming had benefits and
Oh yeah.
all the stuff that we get. And you did it
Tell
with
me about
you did it with the support of your then husband, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
told to leave and then share with the audience what happened. Because I want people to know, the biggest misconception, and this is about taking responsibility for your life. Everybody knows this. If you want to be happy, it's up to you. It
Yeah.
starts first and foremost with you. And you can look and say, oh, but Jen does this. And she didn't know what she was doing.
Right.
None of us know what we're doing. We just do it. That's the
Yes.
difference between those that do and those that the haves and the haves not, or the success and the non-successes. And we just do it. And we do it until it feels right and authentic to us. But something happened after you left corporate America that could have
Yeah.
led you back to corporate America, but you dared share.
Yeah. So, I had put this, summer of 22, I'd put this out in the universe for myself, this kind of dare, to your point, and put a timeline on it and talk to my husband about it. And he was wired for safety, security, stability, not necessarily like a take the risk guy. He was like, but he was on board with me. He's like, listen, okay, all right, that's what you want to do. I think he was probably hoping I would outgrow this notion, but it just got, as that year transpired and I built even more income on the side. And I really thought to myself, wow, if I dedicated full time, what would this look like? When the spring rolled around, I turned to him about a month prior to leaving my job. And I said, listen, I'm serious about this. I want to get my bonus for all the work I've done for last year. And then I want to put in my 2 weeks. And I said, I need your support, and he was like, okay. And we sat down and we mapped through all of our budgets and, contributions and what I was going to contribute and move myself over to his insurance and all the things that, all the logistics behind trying to make this happen. And we arrived at, okay, that I was going to give this a shot for a year and great. And then 2 weeks before I put in my 2 weeks notice, I quit my job. And 3 weeks later, he came home on a Friday and said he didn't want to be married to me anymore. And it was derailing in a lot of different ways. I felt as though the timing was so awful to feel it. It was, it was wild because so many of my friends and even myself, I thought, God, you couldn't have told me this before I just quit my 6-figure salary, big job.
Right.
You just,
Yeah. Yeah.
the timing is kind of shitty, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you that I'm so grateful that he told me after, now that I look back, because I know that I would have turned right back around and got myself another 9-to-5. And I wouldn't have taken the chance because I think feeling like I had a safety net was helpful in making that decision.
Yeah.
But when I knew I wouldn't have a safety net and I still wanted it, I knew I really needed to go for it. And that was the difference. I think knowing that he wasn't going to be there, knowing that I really had to do this on my own was actually motivating instead of, holy shit, I can't do this. I got to go.
Right.
And it made me realize how intently I wanted to go after this and how big the dream was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I won't tell you, and I've shared this on my platforms and to your point, I think, and I've tried to do this very intentionally in my platforms, is to show up with all the facets, the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, the failures, the successes. I leave my old crappy content from 3 years ago up on my page so people can see that I didn't know what the hell I was doing. My lighting sucked, my editing, all the things, because I want people to see that this has been an evolution.
Yeah.
And they've been along for the ride for this evolution. And I have shared, I didn't get online the next day and start, griping about my ex-husband. And I've never done that. I've been honest about my story. That's the chapter that he wrote in my life. And okay, that's my story. But I share it to show women that you're not always going to predict how things are going to go. And it's not always going to go smoothly.
No.
And so much of our gumption, really comes from saying, okay, if some of these things get removed, how bad do I still want this?
Yes.
And that was the thing for me. I think it just, I was so mad at him at first for the timing of it all. And then within a month or so, I was like, God, I'm so grateful that he didn't tell me before, because then I would have been racked with how can I do this? How can I, now I have to, do all these things and I'm not going to have this, where am I going to live? Like, I think I would have gone completely off the rails had I had this information before I pulled the trigger and walked away.
Yeah, because we're also wired to stay safe.
For sure.
Wired to want comfort and safety. And there's nothing wrong with desiring to feel a sense of security and safety. But I love that you made a choice. And in that moment, I don't know if it was conscious or not, because so many times we make a choice and it depends on how you're built. But you had a choice. You could get stuck in blaming and complaining him for this situation, or you could feel what you wanted to feel and then say, okay, well, what am I going to do about it? Because the truth is, we go back to the foundation of our happiness, the foundation of our success. If it's to be, it's up to me, is one of my best quotes. And that's what you did. And I'm sure there were a lot of emotions behind the scenes and we don't have to share all of that to be authentic.
Right.
But just sharing your stories enough. So I love that. Thank you. And thank you for sharing it here. I do have a question.
Sure.
So we want to talk about, how do you regain confidence? And I mean, obviously, everything starts with this stepping out and daring and giving yourself the gifts of trying new things. But the
Yeah,
regaining of confidence in something you say becoming, and I'm doing quotes for those of you listening and not watching, self-centered in a good way. I said it in the
yeah,
introduction. Because selfish and self-centered is a good thing.
100%. And it's
So
been a
what do you
mantra.
so what do you say to the woman out there who's like, well, I don't feel like I have the confidence that you and Jody look like you have right now. And believe me, there are times where I turn off the camera. I'm like, what am I doing? And I'm
Same
like, I
girl.
don't know what is happening. And but I'm just gonna, but I want this show and I want to keep doing it. So I'm gonna learn and what can I do better? So what do you say to the woman who's looking, how do I start to even begin to regain my confidence? And what do you mean by becoming self-centered in a good way?
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of the messaging that we receive, especially as women growing up, is we are in service to others. It's, oh, you get married and you move because of your husband's job, and then you become someone's mother and you become completely selfless. Like, oh, it's such a selfless thing to have children and such a selfish thing to not have children. I was a woman who chose to not have children. And I was labeled selfish for such a long time because I didn't want to have children. And I thought there's nothing selfish about knowing what you're wired for and what you want in your life. And well, okay. But I think there's a lot of messaging that we get as women to surrender our desires, ambitions, passions
Yeah.
in service of the people in our lives. And a lot of times it's when we become mothers, when we become partners to someone else.
Mhm.
And we are not necessarily given that messaging of, hey, put yourself first, put your mask on first, and then take care of everybody else. And it's that feeling, I think, that really has been interwoven in how women have shown up for themselves over the years. And I felt it too. I've been married twice, and both times I made sacrifices for my partner that affected my life in big ways. And getting to this place where I could be completely selfish and really I always tell people self-centered. I want the people in my community to feel centered in self. That idea of, what do I want? What does this feel? Does this feel good to me in my soul? Is this something that I want to pursue? Does this bring me joy? I think women we've turned that off
Yes.
over time,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It was, oh, what would make me happy is to go away with my girlfriends, but I can't leave my kids for the weekend, or my husband won't know what to do, or did it, just all of those things. We kind of set aside our desires out of selflessness, yes. But I think what it does is it damages confidence, and it damages an awareness of, who am I if I am not these labels:
Yes.
daughter, sister, friend, wife, mother. Without those labels, if I just look at Jen in the mirror, who am I and what do I
Yes.
want? And so I've really been hammering my community with this whole
Yeah.
idea of being self-centered. I mean, I'm currently working on an idea for a show, and part of the segment, we've talked about doing styling content, because it's some of the things that I do is just putting outfits together and having fun with it. I'm not some professional stylist, but I enjoy getting
Right.
dressed. And my thought was, I don't want to get women and bring them in and say, okay, here's what I want to put on you. This is what I think you should wear. I want to bring women to a closet and say, what's speaking to you?
Yes.
What colors do you want to try that maybe you haven't tried? What fabrics, what prints, what sequins, when you look at all of this myriad of stuff in the closet, what are you excited about? And
Yes.
really getting women to tap into that inner voice and become self-centered.
I love that. So to take away the roles and look in the mirror and ask yourself, Jody, Jen, whatever your name is,
Yeah.
Julie, Sarah, Mary, whatever your name is out there,
Yeah.
who am I? What makes my heart sings? What lights me up?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. You said a lot of what happens, whether it is through motherhood or whether it is through having your partner in life, whether it's caring, having your parents, something as simple as, and you just reminded me of what a woman said once at my very first vision board workshop that I hosted over 8 years ago. One of the questions in the book, in a workbook that they were, is what do things, write down things you would like to be, do, and have.
Yeah.
And I noticed one woman wasn't writing and she looked like she was just like frozen.
Struggling.
Yeah. And as a mother, and she was a wife for somebody in a family and part of the family, she looked up, she goes, I don't even know what restaurants I like to go to eat.
Yes.
Because you know why? We say, where does everyone want to go to eat? You want Chinese, everybody else wants Italian. You know, what does the woman do? What does the woman say? Okay, we'll go to Italian.
Yep.
That's a big one. So we forget. So I love that. So to regain confidence, become self-centered, you have to put the self in the center again. I love how you said that you have to
Yeah.
be centered in self. You are, and it is, I know it's cliche. You said put the oxygen mask on first. You can't be fully, we think we're fully present for everybody and we're doing a good thing, and yet we're not.
Yeah.
We're not, because if we don't feel good within ourselves, if we don't understand what makes our hearts sing and do stuff for ourselves, our confidence withers away. And then we end up in midlife
Yep.
looking like, oh God, who am I, what I want to be? So I love that. It's kind of you're daring women to redefine and find themselves again, which
Yeah.
is
To show up for
why I
themselves.
wanted you on this show, because this is what it's all about.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, yeah, it's an encouragement to show up for yourself
Yeah.
and put yourself at the top of the priority list for a change.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of coming into midlife is that there are more opportunities for women to do that.
Yes,
Because,
there are.
the kids get older, they get more independent, maybe they move out, like to your point, empty nest, all of those things. And there's opportunity now that frees up some time, some awareness for, okay, I'm not completely focused on my children all the time. Like I could focus on something else. Like, what will I do with all this time I have to myself? Or women are going through divorces and you had a
Yes.
partner that you were catering to and taking care of, or a home that you were taking care of, and maybe you're not having to take care of that. And it frees up bandwidth to be able to sit down and take stock of, okay, well, what do I want the second half to look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's exciting, this
It
time.
can be. It's flipping the script in your mind. Look,
Yes.
transitions are hard, change is hard, all these things are hard, and not but
Yeah.
and yet find the gift in the mess. Like find the okay, you're divorced. I can't imagine. I can't. I didn't go through it. I'm a child of a divorce. I watched some of the struggles, and yet what's a gift you can find in the mess? What is something that you want to do that you're now alone in your house and you can do by yourself and nobody will tell you that's silly, that's stupid. Maybe you could just sit on the floor and eat your food out of a container. You don't have to set a table
Exactly.
anymore. Find whatever gift is in the mess. And that's what you did. You found the gift and you found the way forward. And I'm sure it wasn't easy, but I love all of this. This is why I wanted you, Jen. You speak my language.
Ah, thanks.
So before we get into a dare,
Yeah.
do you have, and it's okay if you don't, do you have any parting words as it relates to maybe it is the dare? Maybe the dare is, for the listeners out there, for the one or two or three women that hear this message and needed it really badly today, and they're like, I want my confidence back. I want to be self-centered. I want to find myself again. What's your parting message and or a dare for them?
Sure. I mean, I think confidence really, when I coach with my clients, and it'll be part of the workshops I'm going to be doing, my confidence collective workshops this season, is I have them go back and do a childhood inventory. And a lot of times when we hear about all the things from childhood, we think about all the stuff that makes us a little like, the things we talk about in therapy.
Yeah.
But I always find it interesting when I coach with people who are struggling with confidence, or they don't know what they love, or they're in that space of like, I don't even know what my passions are. The first thing I have them do, and I've got another idea for a dare, but the first thing I have them do is sit down and make a list of the passions they had when they were a child. Like, what did they love to do? Did they like to do things alone? Did they like to be part of a team? Did they like to play with their friends, or did they like to like explore on their own? Were they into nature? Were they more into books? Did they love science? Did they love math, or did they love acting? And so many times I think when I have people do that exercise, it brings them back to self-centeredness, because so much of what we loved when we were children, when it was pure, when life didn't get in the way and we didn't have to adult, we got to really pursue our passions without any fear or
Yes.
worry or filter or concern about what other people would say about that passion or think. We just were interested in that shit and
Yeah.
we went for it. And so I talk to people about, I want you to make this list of like, what did you love when you were a child? And does any of that list resonate with you now? And can you pursue some of those things as an adult? Tap into those childlike passions that you had, because those really are pure clues in this little treasure hunt to find your way back to yourself.
Yes. Yes.
So that could be part of it. And then the other thing I was going to say for a dare is to take yourself out on a date.
I love it.
I talked to
We
so
have a
many.
dare and a double dare.
A double dare. We're going to double dare you, double dog dare you. I think take yourself out on a date. And so many times when I challenge women to do this, I get the, like I'm going to go to dinner by myself, or I'm going to go to the movies by myself.
Love
Like
movies by myself.
idea of for me, it's been, I'm an only child, so I've done a lot of stuff on my own. And so it's never been anything for me to go to a movie or go to dinner or travel by myself or whatever. But I have become really aware of the fact that that's not a typical thing for a lot of women.
No.
They don't know how to move just by themselves. And to feel okay with, I would like to go out for a nice meal tonight and have a nice glass of wine and go and bring my favorite book and sit in a little corner booth and give myself an evening out of just nobody else is weighing in on this shit but me.
Yes. Yes.
And so taking yourself on a date, I think, is such a great way to start to move in a self-centered way, to start to feel like I'm going to start making choices for myself and do things that feel good to me. So take yourself out on a date. If it's a hike by yourself or a dinner or a movie, or you go to a bookstore, like wherever it is, tap into that thing that you love and then go do it.
I love that. Oh my God, a dare and a double dare. My favorite double dare. I love that one. I love going to movies by myself. I pack sushi or a hoagie from my favorite Lee's Hoagie's house. And I smuggle in my food. I make sure I unwrap it so I don't make all that noise. And I sit, because you don't talk to anybody in a movie.
No, it's great.
Nobody's looking
I
at
love
you.
movies alone.
Love
I don't want to have to go to action adventures all the time, sci-fi. I want to go see like a sappy love story and cry in my soup.
I love that. Jen Polt, thank you. Thank you. So much goodness from your sharing your story. You share so much of yourself. So you're such an authentic, fun, awesome human being. All the ways you can follow, fan, and love Jen is below in our show notes. You got to follow her on Instagram. You're on TikTok too?
I'm on all the platforms at Making Up for Glossed Time.
Yeah.
And my website is glossedworld.com.
And we will have it all linked below. You must follow it. Not only will you learn and be inspired, you will have so much fun. And it's one of my core values is fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it.
Same.
Yeah. More on that later. I'll explain more of that later. Because you can't just say you're not doing anything in life. But truth be told, if it's not grounded in fun at its core, it's not something I want to do. And you know what? We're women in midlife, everybody. And we deserve and we owe it to ourselves to be self-centered and want a little fun in our lives. So rewind this episode, earmark this episode, send this to a friend who needs to hear this uplifting message. A lot of good information was shared here. And don't forget to let us know. You can leave us a review, send me a message. I'll make sure Jen gets it. Actually, at the very top of our show notes, it says fan mail. You can send me a message. I can't reply to fan mail because it doesn't tell me who you are, but you can drop a message there and we'll see it, or reach out to me directly through social media or through my email below and let me know what was your biggest takeaway, and we will share it and give you a shout out on social as well. And don't forget to tune in next week for another brand new episode of Beyond Empty Nest. Thanks for being part of our audience, and as I always say, dare on. Love this episode of Beyond Empty Nest? Head to jodysilverman.com for full show notes and more fun resources. Hey, are you feeling stuck? Like every day is just Groundhog Day? It's time to shake things up with my 30 doable dares. These simple, fun challenges will get you moving, boost your mood, and spark that sense of accomplishment that you've been craving. Doing something new can transform your mindset and build your confidence. Are you ready to dare yourself? Click the link in the show notes and start today. Let me know which dares you took action on so I can celebrate with you. Dare on.